interview an artist every week, and today is no different. I have a very special guest, a friend of mine, and an amazing artist. You don't want to miss this. But before we dive into the interview, a few announcements. So this is a live podcast. What it means, besides the fact that we are live, well, is that you have the chance to interact with the artist. You know, give your opinion about things or ask questions to Randall. Right? It's very easy. Whatever you're watching, there's a chat box either beside or below the video. Use that chat box to interact with us. And you're going to be surprised because, you know, there are many things that we are going to be showing here that are unique, and you will want to interact with the artist. The second thing is share this podcast. This is content only, meaning that nobody's going to sell anything. It is safe for you to post on any group on social media. So if you take a second and do that now, it helps us a lot. Actually, every time you share, every time you give us a like or a heart or whatever it is or whatever you're watching that means thumbs up, or you give a comment, that helps us have more visibility out there. That's how social media sees if it's worth showing or not. So it's up to you. It's on your hands, and anytime you interact or give a like or give a heart, any interaction will help us create more visibility. And the last thing is, this is a podcast, which means that once we go offline, it stays exactly where you're watching. So you can come back, or you can send your friends back to watch it again or watch with you. And it goes also on every single podcast platform, including Apple Play, Google Play, and all the others. Okay, so you can look for us, Creativity in Focus. We have over 60 interviews with amazing artists from different mediums, and you want to, take a peek on every single one of them. With that said, I would like now to welcome Randall Royter to our show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, thank you.
Are you nervous?
I'm very nervous.
Okay,
does it show?
Randall, we are going to show a lot of your pieces, and you like most artists, you like to try different mediums, right? But tell us a little bit who Randall is.
Well, I grew up in Salt Lake City, Utah. Lived here my entire life, love it, and grew up with an interest in art because it was really the only thing I was good at. So
since very young then.
Yeah, very early age. It just kind of was something I could do naturally, and so going all through elementary school, junior high school, and high school, it was really my main focus, and it's what I enjoyed to do, and I was praised when I would do it right, and fed the ego a little bit, and that's what got me going. Yeah, so I had made up my mind really early. I think it was like the 6th grade when I decided I want to become a commercial artist in some way, shape, not thinking fine art, but commercial art. And there was a show on a sitcom at the time, Bewitched, and Darren was a commercial artist.
Oh, that's true. He worked in an advertising agency.
He worked in an ad agency, so that's what I wanted to do.
I want to be like you.
Yeah, and so I kind of went in that direction, and things fell in place. Got through high school with doing a lot of art classes in my senior year, kind of focused on that. And then started college and kind of ran out of money. And it was during the Vietnam War, the lottery came out, the very first lottery, and I had a really low lottery number. So I was going to be drafted, and unknown to me that I had dropped out of college for a semester. And when I did that, I lost my deferment, so I was available. Oh. And so my number was 22, and I decided, I really didn't want to be an Army guy, so I joined the Navy. And
you joined the Navy?
Yeah, and I was in the Navy for 3.5 years.
Wow.
Enlisted for 4 years and got out early for good behavior. So, I served on the USS Enterprise, and the aircraft carrier, and worked on the flight deck for a couple of years. And then eventually became the ship's artist, and I painted.
Look at that!
I painted murals on bomb elevator doors, and one of 2 artists on board the ship.
That's amazing.
So kind of interesting.
You're a veteran, and you're telling me you're nervous because of an interview.
Yes.
And you used to see those planes. Somehow they land on that ship, and they It's amazing, that alone.
It is totally
Right?
amazing.
It's an art to
and
just land.
it's fascinating to watch. You know, for the first 6 months you're on board, and then you get kind of bored with it and say, okay, it just becomes routine. So,
Yeah.
you know.
I've seen some documentaries about that. And
Yeah.
I think it's an art in itself to be able to land on those things in the
Yeah,
right
it's amazing what the pilots can do,
Uh-huh.
and the danger that is involved
Yes.
with it all. I
Yes.
mean, there's danger everywhere. You really have to pay attention. So.
I actually went to a congress and I saw one of the few women that they're able to land on those
Oh.
ships flying. So it's unbelievable. Now, I know that you have a company that does graphic design.
Yep,
So you
Reuters
went-
No Design. Mhm.
It's your own company. You went right from college, or
Yeah, so I went to college, graduated with an associate's degree from SLIC, from Salt Lake Community College, and because I'd spent 3.5 years in the Navy, when I got out, I was married and needed to, kind of get a direction quickly. And so I did the 2-year, associate's degree, got my degree, and then even before I graduated, I had found a part-time job at a real small ad agency, worked there, kind of finishing up school, and then from there ended up finding my way through various ad agencies and design studios. So I worked, probably 7-8 years for different places, and then eventually started
yours?
my own. Yeah,
that's
with
scary,
my
isn't
partner
it,
Scott.
when you start?
Yeah, it was interesting, but I had been working for a gentleman that spent a lot of time out of town, so I kind of ran the studio. So I had a real feel for what needed to be done.
Nice,
and how to go about it. And we had people in place to help, and so the transition to being self-employed was pretty smooth.
That's good.
Yeah, and it worked out perfectly.
Less trauma.
Just like it was meant to be.
Yeah,
So,
and it was.
yeah,
right? Because
and it
how
was.
long have you been with the Reuters firm?
Reuters No Design, we've been in business for 34 years.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, it was good.
And I've been doing graphic design and illustration since
Forever.
1976.
That's
so
awesome.
a long time.
A long time. I was a teenager then. Nancy is saying, thank you for your service, sent by an Army vet.
Oh, thank you.
And she's always here with us here. And don't forget, this is interactive, so you can send us messages and questions to Randall anytime you feel like. There's probably a chat box or a comment box either beside or below the video. Look for that. Send us a message. Randall will be thrilled because he's probably thinking there's nobody watching. Well, you already know there's Nancy, and Bree is saying, hi, Randall.
Hi,
Your
Nancy
work
and Bree.
displayed, it's beautiful.
Oh, thank
yes,
you.
and we are going. So besides the graphic design, I know we are friends. We go to a group in town with very cool folks.
Yep.
Almost every week. So I know what you make. But tell me a few things that you like to dabble.
Well, it's interesting because our mutual friend, Jim Valentine, the chainsaw artist, we spent a weekend together at a golf tournament.
Ooh.
And during the golf tournament, when we weren't golfing and we were hanging out just playing horseshoes, Jim broke out a knife and started whittling on some wood. And of course, I was like, oh, well, that looks like fun. And he said, well, you need to join our carving club.
So he introduced
He
you
introduced
to
me to it.
Oh,
Yeah,
look at that.
yeah. So he's good friends with my nephew, and that's how we connected.
Uh-huh.
And then from there, Jim is just an awesome, friend.
So you
and-
went to the group and you got one of the little figures that they have.
Yeah,
and
Jim
that's-
actually gave me my first knife, my Helvey knife.
Oh,
and,
yeah, look at
yeah,
that.
and you got there, and I forgot what we worked on initially. I think it was like pumpkins or something for Halloween. Not a real pumpkin, but a wooden pumpkin, carving and doing the faces on it. And I just, I had a real connection with wood. And
What attracted you to the wood?
I don't know. There's something, and I've always had an attraction to it. With furniture and things. My brother, my younger brother, was a furniture refinisher for a number of years, and I loved what he was able to do. And I don't know, it was just something there. And then the wood just being able to carve it and turn it into something I found very, very fascinating. Yeah.
So from that little pumpkin, we have, for example, this piece. When did you create this one?
This was one of my first carvings.
Really?
Yeah. So.
Man, your first carving and mine are different.
So this is a brook trout, and
Okay.
I think it's probably one of the most beautiful trout.
Okay, I want to
going,
give a.
and
We are
they
going to give a
just
close up on
gorgeous.
that in a second because they have to see. So what kind of wood did you carve that on?
So this is out of Tupelo, and you know, I found the piece of driftwood on a golf course. So when I'm golfing, and I'm in the woods a lot, I'm always looking down, and if I see a cool piece of wood, I'll pick it up and bring
Right.
it back. So all these pieces, all the
You
driftwood
found
is
someplace.
found on the golf course.
I need to go out more.
Yeah.
So I want to give a close up on the fish here. So you know what's interesting? So the other day I was going by a street and there was this garage sale. And I usually don't stop, but I decided to. And there was a table full of driftwood. So
Oh,
I
really?
was thinking, I found gold.
Yeah.
I'm going to get all this, thinking I was going to pay $5 each. They were selling for 100 and up.
Oh, really?
No treatment. Yeah, I can see you have something there. Nothing. And I say, what? I can
Wow.
go to California and get some out there. So I ended up not getting
Yeah,
that.
golf and hit your ball off into the woods. You'll look
You
down
look
and it's
something, you
everywhere.
find, right? Yeah. So I was impressed. Now, so you Tupelo is your choice usually for
No, I'm
carving?
usually carving on basswood.
Okay.
Is what I'm usually carving on, and it's just because it's soft and very little grain and a little bit easier to carve. And then you're going to paint it after. This fish here is done with Russian
on this
olive.
side? Okay.
Yeah, and that wood is hard as a rock.
Uh-huh.
And so that was a real challenge, and I probably didn't know enough about carving super hard wood to know that I probably shouldn't try that. But
it's gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous.
and
Look
I
at all
love
the-
it. The grain on it is just so beautiful. And,
So how long did it take you to make this?
It's funny because I keep track of every 15 minutes during the day
Really?
when I'm at my office and working on projects, just because that's how we do our billing and that's how we figure out
okay.
how much how much you're losing or how much you're making is really comes down to the amount of time that you spend on it. So anyway, when I do fine art, and I don't like keeping track of my time. It's almost a burden, but it would be nice to know, how much time it's taking. But I don't know. It takes a long time. That's all I know.
Especially
they all take a long time.
Was it the first time you worked with this wood?
Yes.
Yes?
Yeah.
So I'm going to try to turn it. Joe, if you could get the little guy here, it's just because. So what's the story here? That's how you see the bottom of a lake with some crawfish too? Or
Yeah.
Can
Yeah.
you get from here?
Yeah. Well,
Look at this. There's this little guy here. Amazing.
the crawfish. So the crawfish is carved out of a piece of walnut.
Oh, yeah?
That
Which is also hard, right?
Jim Valentine gave me.
Ooh.
So and I was going to use the hunk of walnut for the base. Ended up, the base is a piece of apricot wood out of
Wow.
a friend's yard, and
Really?
yeah,
I
yeah.
need to hang out with your peeps.
Yeah.
Look at this.
So once you start doing carving with wood, anybody that and when they're cutting down a tree or something,
They
they
tell
always
you.
give you a heads up. Hey, you want this wood? And
That's phenomenal
Yeah,
because this is
sometimes
so
you take it.
pretty.
Yeah.
And how did you make the leaves?
So these are made out of real thin pieces of wood that I actually wrapped a wire on. It took me a while to try and figure out how I was going to do it. This was one solution. I don't know if it was the right solution. I see, one of them's broken now, and they get real brittle. But
Because it's very thin.
yeah, very,
Yeah.
very thin. Yeah.
And then a driftwood here.
This is
This-
driftwood, just a
yes.
found piece. The rocks are carved out of various pieces of wood, yeah, it was.
It's a gorgeous piece.
It's you finish the fish, and then you need to display it, so you get around to doing the display and trying to bring
And
it
the
all
story you
together.
want to tell right here, right?
So my main thought was I want to be able to show some motion, some current, and that's why I think it was important to
have the
introduce
leaves as well, right?
Yeah,
Yes,
because
yes.
that gives a little bit of a current and a feel for maybe water passing by.
Phenomenal piece. Now, can we look at this other fish here that we showed first? So we go through that one. And so that one is the tupelo. This is the olive tree, correct? Okay.
Russian olive.
Russian olive. Don't you have a tree in your home that is a Russian olive?
No,
Oh,
I
you
don't
told
have
me
one,
about
but they are all over the valley.
Okay.
They're an invasive species.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, and so a lot of the golf courses that have them will try and get rid of them. Rose Park Golf Course, and that's where that piece came out of.
Wow,
Was
that's very
they
cool.
had cut down a bunch, and my friend and I went over and snagged a bunch of logs, and that's where that came
I
from.
have the wrong friends.
So,
I need
yeah.
to hang out. So tell me about this. So it's painted, correct?
This one is painted, yeah. So
What
it's
did you use to paint that?
I used an airbrush, and I have, I've been doing airbrush illustrations for a long, long time. So it was a real natural
Thing for you.
medium for me to utilize, and a lot of carvers do it. But yeah, the painting, the airbrushing is actually pretty quick, and you can do it fairly fast. But
That's very cool.
the carving takes a long time.
Long time.
Yeah.
I bet. I've seen you work, so I know.
Yeah,
Including
it
the ducks.
just takes a long time.
Have these pieces been? I need the power here. Have these pieces been on a show?
Yeah, every year at the Carving Club we have a show in March, and it's a contest, and so I'll enter that, and then also enter the fair with various pieces.
How did you do this year?
This year I did really well, so I won a couple of best of shows and a couple of first place. So,
That's very cool.
Yeah.
So I have some questions here for you,
Okay.
but it powered off. But I know I read one from Nancy that she was asking if you carve the fish in one piece or the fins come later.
Yeah,
What's the process?
That's a great question. So this being one of my very first carvings, it was a learning experience.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, and so initially I was trying to carve it all out of a single piece of wood.
Okay.
And that is problematic, especially when you get around the fins. So I ended up carving all the fins separately
Okay.
and then gluing them on.
Awesome. Now, I
And
want
that's a
to...
typical technique.
That's a typical thing
Yeah,
to do, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. So while I wait for my questions, I want, so, we are going to show, you do more stuff, right, a lot more. You are a photographer.
Yeah, I
correct?
you
do
love to photograph.
amazing wood burning.
Love wood burning.
Yes.
Yeah.
But at the office, you also have some fun sometimes,
Yes.
right?
Oh, yeah.
I know you said about the 15 minutes, but there is a moose.
Yes.
Let's show the story. So one day it arrived. So that's what they're saying, the truck now arriving?
Yes, yeah. So the client, I had a client that was interested in having me do this painting on the moose, and his idea was that this particular piece would go in their showroom and become a conversation piece.
What kind of company do they have?
It's Midwest Commercial Solutions, and they interior solutions, and they sell high-end office furniture and glass and flooring and all carpeting and all different kinds of things. But it's really high-end.
So they wanted a statement piece.
Yeah, so typically what happens, they're a distributor, and so they'll get buyers from various companies that come around, and they'll put them on a tour bus, and they'll drive those people around to various distributors and in a single day. So they'll get them out, they'll shuffle them through, take them all through their showroom, show them the different furniture. Well, what happens typically is the buyers get all the different places mixed up because they're all selling furniture and
They get
furnishings, and
overwhelmed.
they'll get overwhelmed with everything, and they can't keep it straight. So my client, Marshall, had this brilliant idea that he wanted to put something in the showroom that would be a stopper and something to recall, help them recall what they saw at the place, with the moose. And so he commissioned me to paint the moose. He had no preconceived idea what it should be. He said, I'm just going to bring it in, drop it off, and wow me.
So this is going through the door of your studio, correct?
Yeah, this is coming through the front door.
And it is a life-size?
It's about 3/4 size, not quite life-size. It's made of fiberglass.
Okay.
And the antlers were detached.
Okay.
And so
And
these
then
guys
you start painting.
And so they brought it in, and I had no idea what to do and how to start. So I started on the eyeball and just worked
from there.
and
That's
just kind
cool.
of took it out. But I knew it had to be different and stunning, and it was so much fun to do. And it was such a great relief because there was no really pre-planning. That's what everyone asked. Did you sketch this out and figure things out before you started? And I said, no, I really just kind of went with it.
You went a little bit every time you would work on that, and then you would say, okay, maybe the next step here is going this way.
One thing just kind of led to another.
And that's the finished piece.
That's the finish. That's one side of the finished piece. It's painted all the way around. So
look at that.
On the other side, it's got zebra stripes going on. And I want to introduce different animal, skins, hides, in a colorful way. That was my thinking. And so you can see the suggestion of giraffe on the.
Now, there is always the risk when you present this to the client that they might look at you and say, were you high on something?
Yeah, that was a real fear, actually,
Right?
to think that, is he going to like this? Am I too far out? But just total encouragement to let it flow and let it go and what it is.
That's the best approach you can have with an artist, right? To let it create.
I think so. I think so. It really worked great for me. And, I would go in and work, maybe 3-4 hours at a time on it in between other projects. And they had no real hard deadline for me.
Good.
They were redoing their showroom. And
so
so
you had the time in your favor then.
I had time to get it done. And Marshall was always saying, no hurry, take your time, do it right, get it where you want it.
Fantastic. This is a phenomenal piece.
Thank you.
So I have a few questions here. Nancy's saying the Russian olive has such a beautiful grain. It is really, really impressive. And she's also asking, Randall, what is the oddest place you have found an interesting piece of wood for your carving? Ooh, that's dangerous because you are out there all the time, right? Either fishing, golfing.
I am.
Yep.
Yeah. And golf course, I have found more pieces of cool wood on the golf course because I'm always in the brush.
Oh, my ball.
So yeah. So I get a lot of opportunities to look down looking for a ball, and I don't hesitate at all to pick them up. So if I come across something, I'll pick it, hoard it, get it back home, throw it in the pile. I've got piles of this stuff.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And then when I'm working on a piece, I'll go through and find the right piece for the carving. So
that you want. Like on this one that you have several types of wood, and they can't see the back, but I can see the other pebbles there. Every single one has a different
all
grain.
the rocks are different kinds of wood,
Yeah,
which is kind of fun.
amazing.
And,
that's amazing.
Rocks are easy to do, so you think about it, they're kind of mindless.
Comparing to the fish.
Yeah.
Bree is asking, are the eyes painted or glass?
They're glass eyes. So we have a taxidermy shop in town that I'll go down and you can buy various size eyes for birds or fish.
I know, I've been there.
Animals.
I have a collection.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool. And I had all this fear of going to a taxidermy shop because in my mind it was, I'm not into hunting at all.
Exactly.
So it was kind of, I don't want to see what they have there. But I was actually amazed at how many
Yeah.
things, not only the eye part, but
the styrofoam.
the styrofoam
Yeah.
pieces and everything you can
Yeah.
add to that. So
Yeah.
it was really fun.
Yeah, it's a cool place
a
to
cool
go.
place.
And
Not
you
scary
walk
at
through
all.
all those drawers and
Yes.
all the different eyes,
Yes.
and it's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. Nancy, Shahar, thanks for asking about the story. Most pieces of art have a backstory. I couldn't tell that those leaves are wood. I thought he would say copper. Well, that's an idea.
Yes,
You know,
and
that's
I think some carvers actually use copper, and that makes sense because it's easy to mold and it's stable.
Yeah. John is saying, where did you find the inspiration to do the moves the way you did?
I think I was inspired by some of the Mexican art. What's it called? Oaxacana. I don't know what the proper name is of it, but I was inspired by that. That's kind of the direction I wanted to go. So that's where it came from.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Kyle, hi Kyle. He's saying, oh, so happy to see this. Nancy, wow, it's stunning. All about the expression and pushing out energy. Nan is saying very colorful. You haven't seen anything. Let's talk a little bit. I want to see, the ducks is really what connected us the first time. Because I remember you were carving another duck.
Yeah.
And I told you I saw a mandarin duck on a park.
That's right.
And I show you my pictures, and then
Yeah, I couldn't believe it.
You couldn't believe
Yeah.
I found that in here, and I know the whole conversation. So let's show the duck first.
And I went after that duck. I went and
You did, yes.
I tried to get a photograph of that duck for a couple of weeks
Yeah.
and never did see it.
Oh.
But
I still have tons of pictures.
yeah, that's great.
Yeah, very cool. So tell me about this one.
So this
Oh
is.
no, we are showing the mandarin one.
Oh yeah, that's a wood duck.
Wood duck. Okay.
And then that's the painting is a golden eye, and I did that as I entered the federal duck stamp competition.
For the picture.
Yeah, so that's a mating call that the duck is doing, and they are cool to go see. And you go out
Yes.
to Farmington Bay,
Yeah, I have
and
some
you can
pictures.
see
Yeah.
these golden eyes out there. And when they're doing their mating call, the drakes will kick their head back like
So
that.
this is a painting that you did, correct?
Yes,
Oil, acrylic?
This is acrylic, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Okay, now let's go to the mandarin that you carved and tell me a little bit about the process there.
So that's a wood duck.
Okay, wood
and,
duck.
Yeah, the
That's the
mandarin
name.
duck is actually
It's
more.
a wood duck made of wood.
Yes, the
Okay.
wood duck is made of wood. Yeah, and beautiful duck.
Beautiful,
And
beautiful.
we don't see him here very often. I've only seen two.
Okay.
And I try and get out, and when somebody says they've spotted one, I'll go
You'll
out
go there.
and try and find it. And the last one I saw was in the Jordanelle Canal, just off of Redwood Road and like 90th South. Not a place you would
No.
expect to see
Yeah.
it. And sure enough, there was
It was
one
there.
that lost his way, obviously, and during the migration, and because typically they won't migrate through
Utah.
Yeah. And anyway, you know, it's just an amazing, beautiful duck. These ducks actually nest in trees, and so pretty unusual.
And it's basswood
This is basswood, yeah.
and the paint acrylic.
The paint is acrylic, yeah,
Okay.
and airbrush.
Airbrush as well?
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah.
awesome, awesome. And then we have this other duck.
This is a pintail, northern pintail,
Okay.
and this is also basswood. The base is a piece of the apricot again, and the eyes are glass. I actually,
These feathers are unbelievable.
yeah, and very challenging to get those right.
They were done
And
on one piece or?
one piece.
Okay.
The tips of the feathers are glued in,
Okay.
and the pintail is actually one piece was attached to the duck, so
Okay.
that was always attached.
Very, very cool. Amazing work.
And then the painting is so tedious, and if you look at a duck feather, they're absolutely amazing and beautiful, and you have to kind of study them to understand what you need to do to paint them and carve them.
I bet. I
So
bet.
that's why I like spending a lot of time in the field and taking photographs. And, you know, getting familiar, watching them in nature.
The behavior.
And then,
Yeah,
and
true.
that is all helpful to the end piece.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
John is saying you are so talented.
Oh, thank you.
So John, let's look now to the wood burning. So Jim invited you one day, you start carving a pumpkin, it led to all these amazing things that you have. You were recently on a show here in town, correct?
Yes, uh-huh.
At the Sandy
City Hall.
City Hall.
Yeah, I had a one-man show there.
That's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Yeah,
That's pretty
yeah.
cool. So how did you transition to the wood burning?
Well, Sherry, one of the people in our carving club, was doing wood burning. I looked at it and was fascinated by it and thought I need to try that. And tried it and really liked it. And it's very similar to doing pencil drawings.
Oh, really?
I think so. And so it's all about the value study. You're kind of tossing the coloring out, and it all becomes about value and how you get those values just right.
So let's look here at this guy. This guy also won a prize, correct?
Yeah, this won a Best of Show in the Utah State Fair and special award as well.
So it's amazing. How long ago did you make this?
This was fairly recent, probably 3 months ago, 4 months ago.
Teach me about the value thing. What should I be looking here?
Well, you know, the different value, the lightest light and the darkest darks and all the values, you're working with about a range of 5 to 8 values, you know, as you're burning.
And
so
that's
you figure
how
out
you
your
do the
darkest dark and
shading.
your lightest light. And the lightest lights are applied with a Prismacolor pencil, a white Prismacolor pencil.
Oh, so then after you're done, you come with the
You come
prism
in
and
with
do
the highlight
highlights?
and it just lights it up.
Look
so
at this.
it's amazing what it will do.
Okay.
And
What kind of wood did you use?
so this is a birch. It's a birch plywood, and it's really nice to work on. The grain doesn't affect, you know, what you're doing too much. You can see grain through it, obviously, but it's not overwhelming on it. And I know that the basswood is really good. That's what this is
This
here.
little guy here?
Yeah, and
we
it's
see
actually a
this?
little bit smoother and
We'll
might
see
be a
in a
little
second.
bit easier to work with.
What do you want? You want me? The mug. The mug is in the way, Randall.
Oh.
And it's my mug. Okay, now you guys can see. Look, amazing piece. So this one is what wood?
This is basswood.
Basswood. Wow.
And so this was, you know, I purchased the basswood at, I think it was Michael's. You know, and they sell it with the bark on like that, which I
Nice.
really like. You know, you prep it with the sanding, you know, get it
Hand
nice and
sanding
smooth.
or machine sanding?
Hand sanding. I do it with a block. And just get it nice and smooth so your surface, you know, doesn't have any bumps or anything in it. And so you can control the value. And the trick about wood burning is it's a kind of a slow process. You don't get to your end value immediately. It's kind of like painting with acrylics where it's done in layers.
And it starts building.
Yeah, and so
what
you
you want.
build on and you try and keep it smooth and try to control the gradients and the values of things. And you don't want you know, things getting too dark too quick, too, you know, to me it's just a matter of controlling the layer. And so when I got thinking about this, when I'm wood burning, my value change sometimes is only like a 2% value, you know, that I'm making it 2% darker as I burn.
Okay.
And so you do a layer, do
Let me
another
see.
layer, and just kind of build it up. And that will give it a little bit of depth.
Do you start like with the eyes every time, or it doesn't matter to you?
No, I usually start in the head region and
then you go from there.
yeah, and then go from there. I talked to a fellow duck stamp painter, a good friend of mine, that she always starts with the eyes, and if the eyes don't look right,
Yeah.
she starts over and kick it out.
I'm
because
kind of
it-
like That I
Yeah,
don't do
I
this,
think,
but
yeah.
the ice give me the soul.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
so. I
yeah.
think so. Yeah.
It goes from there. And then, of course, the highlight is also the Prismacolor.
Yep.
Is
The
there
white
anything
Prismacolor.
treating the wood
Yeah. After you're
afterwards?
finished, you put a UV protectant spray on
Okay.
it. The wood burning is light sensitive, and so if you hang these out in
not protect-
sunlight,
uh-huh.
it will fade away.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so you have
Oh.
you really have to pay attention to that. When I frame them, I'll use a UV protectant glass,
Okay.
and everything is sprayed with a UV protectant spray.
Now, I am going to assume you don't use the school wood burner that we use in elementary school. At least I had that class.
You know, it's interesting, but a lot of people still use those.
I know.
A lot of professionals that do amazing work, but
Really?
they seem real bulky to me. I use a coal wood wood burner,
Okay.
and mine's got 2 pens on it. You know, initially when I got started, I thought, well, I need all these different types of
Yeah.
tips. And what I found is I use one. I use
at a time.
a shading tip, and that's kind of my go-to.
That's very cool.
And just as I'm burning, I will continually clean the tip off because it builds up carbon.
Oh.
And so you have to keep that carbon off. And once the carbon builds up there, then the temperature changes and you lose control. And the control is really, really important to be able to, know how much you're changing
I
the
think
value.
this would be the #1, right? Because I know I've dabbled into this a little bit. Very easy to burn,
Oh, yeah.
right? And you think, no, I just need a little bit more, and then
Yeah.
you overlook. So controlling how you use the pan and the
Yeah,
temperature
yes.
I think is where the learning curve really
I
is.
think so. And so I think a real good starting point is to actually block out, a value study to start with, and take a value from white to black, and then all the different stages in between. You can do it in 3 or you can do it in 5, and do these different values. And just by doing that short little training will get you used to, knowing. And then as you look at something, your reference material that you're working from, you can kind of break that down in your mind, thinking, oh, that's going to be, a medium dark that, I know how to get there and
very
make
cool.
that happen. So.
That's very cool. I have here, let me show where I am. John is saying, you're so talented. I said, that fin, that is incredible. Bree, the Indian and owl are wood burned. They are amazing.
Oh, thank
yes.
you.
And then we have this guy here. This is a work in progress, correct?
This is a work in progress,
Okay.
so this is what I'm currently working on. It's a Canada goose, and I took that photo on a golf course, believe it or not.
Of course.
And I loved the photo, and I just thought it would make a great wood burning.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the wood?
This is birch.
Birch too.
Birch
okay.
plywood.
And you
Mhm.
plan to
And I
frame
buy
that?
this, a lot of the birch plywood I buy at Home Depot.
Yeah.
And the panels that they sell there, so it's pretty cheap.
Yeah, that's good. That's great. And it's also a very, you get into a meditative state when you're doing this, right?
Yeah, a lot of times I'll be listening to music as I'm.
Okay, I want to know what kind of music you like to
Well, I
listen.
like rock and roll.
Rock and roll.
Yeah.
Da, 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 and then you're doing the fur of
Yeah.
an animal. Da,
Yeah,
da,
yeah. Well, sometimes I'll listen to a police scanner, so I
Ooh.
just hear what's going on in the valley,
Oh,
which is interesting
Yeah.
Because there's so much activity going
Really?
on. So
I never tried that.
I'll listen to it. It's kind of fun to listen to.
Okay, let's look at some of your other work that we have some pictures to show you. And guys, remember, if you have any questions, this is the best time for you to do that. There's a chat box either beside or below the video that you're watching, and you found the moose in the woods.
Yep.
Nice.
This was, funny enough, during a golf tournament.
You have something, right? You're either golfing or fishing.
Or fishing,
Yeah.
yeah. I do love to do both. And camping. I love camping with the family. So, but yeah, this big old moose stomped through. We were actually going to the golf course, and locked up the brakes, jumped out of the car, and I've always got my camera with me,
Yep.
as you do.
Yep.
And snapped a bunch of
That's
shots.
cool,
Yeah,
cool.
a lot of fun.
There was a time I would wake up like 4 in the morning to get a shot of an eagle like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't do that anymore.
So this is out at Farmington Bay, and during the
Amazing
eagle,
place we have here.
during the eagle migration, and that was back when the DNR actually pulled some fish out of the
there
canal.
about
and so
3 or 4 years ago, I
yeah,
think, right?
yeah. And the bald eagles were feeding on the fish that were out on the banks, and so it made for some great, photo ops.
Would you go early there?
Yeah, not
Kind of early.
yeah, not super early, but because it was cold, really cold, but
So
get
we
out there at
probably
a decent.
crossed
Yeah.
paths
Oh, I'm
during
sure we
that
have.
time, because I was there every day.
Yeah.
Okay, what else do you have there? I want to show everything that Randall does, because he's a very talented guy. Oh, look at this.
Yeah, that's a Gadwall, and that was another submission for the federal duck stamp contest. And
That is oil? What is it?
this is acrylic.
Acrylic?
Yeah, a
Very
little bit of
cool. Look
airbrush
at
in the
that.
background, and
Oh, you airbrush the background?
yep.
Nice. Beautiful.
Thank you.
Gorgeous. Christmas is coming. Okay, foxes.
Yeah.
Was that in Farmington too?
No, this was, you won't believe this, but it
What?
was on a golf course.
Of course.
And it was Rose Park Golf Course, and these foxes were actually living in the canal. What are they called? It's like the sewer system.
Oh, and they were living there?
They had to end up in there, and there was 5 little cubs
Cubs.
and mother, and yeah, it was.
That's very cool.
It was fun.
I have some that I took in Farmington Bay, which is unusual because they usually remove the foxes because of
Yeah.
all the birds.
Yeah.
But at that time, those cubs were not bothering anybody. There was a den right there, and we got some pictures.
Yeah.
They're funny little animals.
Yeah, I was out there for about an hour and a half, 2 hours photographing, and
Yeah.
at the time I had a 500 millimeter lens on, so I was able to get good photos
Good
from a
photos.
distance. Yeah.
You don't have to risk your life like I do.
Yeah, yeah, and you do.
I
with
do.
the bears, I
Go
know.
with the bears and a
Crazy.
300. Like, come on, baby, come on, baby. Do we have one more to show? Let me see. Oh, that's different. Tell me
Yeah,
about
so
it.
this was an illustration I did for 3M, and talking about some of their computer systems, and it was a teaching program for coders, people that code for medical practices.
Okay.
And so this was illustration that. I did a series, all kind of fashioned in the same
That's amazing.
funky, different look. Yeah, fun to do.
Okay, and the last, I like that.
This was an illustration that, and again, depicting squandering time was the headline. So this was all airbrush.
Wow, all of it.
All airbrush.
Wow. Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. And that was done for Ballet West.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, that's very cool. Awesome. So, of course, when you get a commission for the company, right, like the Moose, you're charging. But do you sell your art?
My art is for sale, but I
Okay.
have not done a lot of sales. But just haven't. I'm just really getting started on trying to get things in a mode that I can make a sell. And
There is a whole other side.
It
right?
really is, yeah.
Creation is one of them, but
Yeah.
then you say, okay, now what?
You got to market it.
Yeah, because if you keep putting fish in your home, your wife will come at some
She's
point
tired
and say,
of them.
Randall,
Yeah.
I can't take
Yeah.
the routes anymore.
Yeah.
So
The
you
fish have got to go.
yes, and you don't want to put that in the garage. So it comes the part of, okay, how do I sell? Where do I sell? So you started with some shows,
Yeah,
right? Like
yeah.
the
So I
art
try
fair?
and get myself, active in competing, and whether it's the Great Salt Lake Carving Club show, or the Utah State Fair, or the Federal Duck Stamp Contest.
How do you keep up with them? Like, how do you get to know when to place? Because a duck doesn't get ready in a month. We know that, right? It
Right,
takes you a long
right. So
time.
I'm not thinking about the contest at the time that I'm working on a piece. I work on the piece. When
Okay.
it's ready, I'll enter it into the next contest that
Okay.
comes available.
Okay.
So it's yeah, you'd stress out if you're trying to make those, you know, crazy deadlines. And I'm kind of over doing deadlines from being in commercial art for so
You're
long.
done with that.
So we always have deadlines, and we live and die by that. So it's kind of nice just to do
Enjoy.
stuff and enjoy it, and when it's done, it's done. But you know, as an artist, you know, your stuff is never done.
Nope.
You know how that
Oh,
goes.
yeah, every time you look, you could see something
I
different.
should do this.
Yeah.
So you got to get them framed and under glass. So it's a real hassle to
So
pull
you
them out.
cannot touch it anymore.
Because you will if you leave it out there for sure.
Bree is saying, who knew there was so much wildlife around golf courses? How many hours do you spend at the golf course?
Yeah,
Every picture I see of you on Facebook, you have 3 or 4 buddies with you in an adventure.
Yeah, I typically golf every once a week during the summer
Not too
and
bad.
spring and fall. You know, until the winter sets in, and I've been known to golf January 1. I've golfed. There was a season we golfed in every month of the year.
Wow.
So now, as I'm getting a little bit saltier, a little older, I've got a 50-degree
Limit there to be out there.
It's got to be 50 degrees, or
So
I'm
what
not
do
going to
you
do it.
do during winter? You just cry that you cannot.
Well, I go into the studio and I get a lot of studio work done,
Okay.
and you know, I love doing that. And there was a famous illustrator from Salt Lake, Don Weller, that had a great line. He says, "There's nothing better on a cold winter night than a hot deadline," and it is kind of nice to, you know, when it's snowing outside, to be working on something, you know, and yeah, especially artwork. So,
Yeah, true.
It's fun.
Finn is saying, how often do you create? Is it a daily activity? Do you have a schedule for yourself?
It is pretty much a daily activity. So you know, I'm still working full time. So I'll go into the office and you know, get in about 10 o'clock and work till about 5, and then go home and depending on how the day went, I might go up and wood burn for a couple of hours every night, and or oil paint or whatever I'm working on.
Okay.
I'll hit that. So. For a little bit, but I try and do that every day, and you know, stay busy with it.
I think it helps you improve, right? The fact that you're exercising.
Yeah,
every day.
I think if you're going to improve, you've got to do it daily, and I think that goes to everything. You know, if you're doing artwork, you've got to be drawing, you've got to be out in nature, looking, observing. It's never ending, and it shouldn't be.
Yeah,
I mean,
true.
that's the beauty of doing art, and is all the opportunities that you get while doing it. And you know, I'm a fanatic about taking my camera with me, so I take it everywhere. And when the opportunity pops up, because you never know, you know.
Oh, especially with the
when you saw that mandarin, who
Yeah.
knew that mandarin
Yeah.
duck was up there? I mean, that's so unusual.
Somebody did, because I saw on, I belong to a lot of bird groups virtually, and somebody posted. And at that point, it's the same thing. I like that salt here, so now I'm kind of lazy. But I would go right away.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't matter what time it was, and I
Yeah.
would be there and find the thing.
Yeah.
And Ashley is the same. So, of course, we would go together. During that season with the Eagles, we were there every day, waking up. It was cold,
It was very cold.
But we were there for hours.
Did you see
now I'm not.
that juvenile golden eagle that was there one day? That was
No, I don't think so.
and I got so close to it.
Really?
I got within 4 feet of it,
Nice.
and it was sitting on a post. And I've got some
look at
great
that.
photos of it. But it was so interesting to be that close, and those birds are so big, and you don't realize
you realize how big they are.
until you get next to them. And the golden eagle actually dwarfs the bald eagle. They are so much bigger. And there was probably 3 people around photographing that bird at the
Oh, my
same
gosh,
time. and you could just see the bird processing, you know,
What's
these
going
humans
on?
and what are they doing? And
Am I going to attack
I
you
could
or not?
claw one of them. And
Look at this.
say, yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Oh, look at that. Is that the one that
That's
you're talking
one.
about?
Yeah, well, yeah, that's a golden eagle there.
Ooh,
Yeah.
Awesome. So look
And
at
that's an
that.
adult. So yeah.
Huge bird, beautiful.
Oh, it's huge.
Yeah, I remember some barn owls that would go out exactly at the same time to
Yeah.
hunt. And we got so many pictures of them. But it's like crazy because then everybody runs with the camera here and then
Oh
it's
yeah.
over there.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
And
the
I've
car-
gone out to find those barned owls,
Yeah.
and I've not got a single photo.
That
of one,
winter
so.
especially, it was because there was not a lot of food. So they had to go earlier to hunt, so we had light. So that's what happened, or else they are really night creatures,
Nocturnal,
right?
yeah.
But that year was different. And unfortunately, they were all suffering. So we got the barn owl, we got pygmy owls, we got a lot of saw-whet owls because they were out early
Yeah,
in
yeah,
the day. In the
yeah,
day, not like
yeah.
4 o'clock.
Yeah.
Bree saying, Randall, you are so talented in so many mediums. Thank you for sharing with us. Mary, at home, do you have a space studio just for yourself? Does your spouse create as well? Tell me about that.
Well, my wife does do creative things. She crochets and she
Nice.
sews and she does. She used to do popcorn bowls, painted popcorn bowls. She did that for
What
a
is
while.
a popcorn bowl? I don't know.
You would love it. I'm telling
I
you.
bet.
And she
I'm
does it
already
with
interested.
their ink pens is how she would do it, and just little stick figures. But the way she painted them, and I'll bring one in and
Yes,
show
please,
you. You'll love
please.
them. So yeah, she's got a creative side, and
Good.
yes, I do have a dedicated studio in the house, and then I've got a shop outside where I can wood burn or not wood burn, but carve and
do.
and make a mess. Because I tried doing that in the house,
Yes, I tried
and that
too. It
didn't
doesn't
go. That
work.
didn't go over very well. Because even in my studio, when I was carving in my studio in the house, I would leave little trails
Yeah.
of wood everywhere,
I've been
and
there.
of course
I've been
would
there.
it was drive her
Yeah.
insane, and she eventually stopped bugging me about it. But I've been a lot better about cleaning up after myself and being aware
Okay,
that I
of
do
what happened.
I do track wood everywhere. But that's kind of the nature of the beast. That's what happens.
Do you also work with wood, like building furniture and stuff like that?
Not really. I wouldn't mind doing that, though. I think furniture design is awesome, and I could see myself getting into that, but
Yeah.
I don't need another
Another
thing
one.
to get into.
I know how it
You know
goes.
how it is.
But
I
soon,
know you don't.
soon we will see Randall creating a bench. I actually attended in a local wood store a guy doing a demo on how to create a rocking chair.
Oh, yeah.
And it was amazing. And I was all, I want to do it. I want
Yeah.
to do it. But then the price point of the course was in the thousands.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, okay, I don't need a rocking chair. Not
Yeah.
at this point, maybe
Yeah.
later. And I didn't try, but I'm fascinated
Oh.
about wood is, I mean,
It's a great medium.
it's like you are connected with nature
Yeah.
when you're working
Yeah,
with that,
it is
right?
so
And,
true, yeah.
And the digging out of whatever
Yeah.
you're creating,
Yeah.
it's amazing.
Our friend Jim that does it with a chainsaw
That's
is
even more impressive.
unbelievable
Yep.
that he can look at a stump or a tree and
see a bear and see an eagle and
be
get
able
it
to
out.
carve it
yes.
out and
Yeah.
it's I'm
It's like you get
always-
to the trunk and you say, there's something in there,
Yeah.
and I'm going to free you from the rest.
Yeah,
right?
and then with the chainsaw, it's so scary because
Yeah,
I mean,
tell me about it.
yeah, it's you know, you can lose a hand, you can lose a foot.
Yeah, it's not fun. He told me there are quite a few women that do that as well.
Yeah.
And they do the chainsaw carving, but that's outside my comfort zone.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
when I
I
look
d-
at him doing it, I say, I want to do it.
Yeah.
But then I say, no. And it requires a lot of muscles.
Yeah, and I did it with Jim one day.
Oh, yeah?
We did bears, and it was a lot of fun.
Now,
A lot of fun to do.
is it easy?
It's hard.
I bet it's
Yeah,
hard. Because how
yes.
you keep proportions while you're working with that thing?
Yeah, it's you know, it's you have to learn the skill and just to control that chainsaw
Yeah.
and what to be leery of and how it can get away from you,
Uh-huh.
and then you know not get complacent with it to where you forget about all the safety features that you're supposed to be paying attention to. So
It requires some courage.
Oh yeah.
Jenny's saying, I feel like I'm hanging out with friends. Thank you for the fun and candid conversation. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
We really appreciate. So Randall, you were fortunate enough to find somebody, a friend of yours, that introduced you. Let's face it, he was whittling something, you thought it was interesting, you accept an invitation, maybe because that day you were just bored at home.
Yeah.
Say, let's go check that group. And you did something silly,
Yeah.
like a pumpkin or a flower or
Yeah.
something. But that triggered the inner wood artist inside you to come
It
out.
opened a whole new thing
A
for
whole
me.
new thing.
Yeah.
And there is a social side about that. Because, for
Yeah.
example, when it comes to wood carving, it's not an art form that you see everywhere. Like, for
Exactly.
example, polymer clay, thousands and thousands of people. With the wood carving, not so much.
Yeah.
But it's on your shoulder, on my shoulder, and on every artist's shoulder to keep these art forms alive.
Oh yeah.
Right? So, do you know if there are other groups out there? We know we are very fortunate to have the best here in town, but
Yeah.
are there?
There are other groups out there. I know there's a group down south that meets on a regular basis, and wood burning.
Wood burning, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm connected to a lot of people online that wood burn
Awesome.
all over the world, and there are some
Amazing, right?
unbelievable, beautiful things being done that. Very talented people, and they're willing to share, and so I stay connected with that. I'm checking there's a pyrography website that you can join and show your stuff, and it's always fun to finish a piece and post it and then get comments right away and get the feedback. I love that, and I love that the artists are so willing to share technique and finishes and what to be on the lookout for and what not to do, and everybody's there's always somebody posting a bad burn that they forgot.
Yeah. So we have this blessing, right, to have social media today with these groups,
Yeah.
where we are actually connected to everybody out there in the world. And you should look if in your town you don't have a group of wood carving or wood burning, right, and start going, because it is
Yeah.
unbelievable. In our group, I mean, that's a very festive group, right? And
Yeah.
maybe we have 40 people there a week or so.
Yeah, it changes from week to week, but there has been a time when there's been as many as 50 55 people there.
All
Yeah,
ages, right?
all ages.
But
and-
we have a little bit more of the more seasoned folks.
Yeah.
But I see creating almost as a sequential learning.
Yes.
What you said, you go out to take a picture, you're paying attention to the wood you see on the floor, you pay attention to the rocks you see on the
Yes.
floor. So you never cease to learn,
Yeah.
and that's what keeps us healthy,
Yeah.
right? And I remember, I haven't been attending the group as I like, just because of life, but I remember you were making a castrol. And you decided to make this castrol, so you're carving, but with open wings.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
So I was there, and you were deciding how you're going to position the bird. And there's the sweet lady, I forgot her name, maybe you remember. And she looked at you and said, are you sure that's the right position of the wing? And you said, yes, because he's hunting and da-da-da. And she said, but
Marilyn, yes.
No, it was not Marilyn.
Oh,
it was another lady.
Oh, okay.
And
Oh, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then she said, but are you sure that's the right position? And you said, yes, I have a picture. I took a picture. And then she went, the bones of the wing.
Yeah.
And then she gave you
Schooled me. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
But,
Fantastic.
right?
Yeah.
Because she
I
carved,
had the
don't know how
wings
many birds
curved,
in her life.
right.
What was the mistake? Tell me.
Yeah, the wings were too curved.
And it was impossible because the
Yeah,
position of the bones.
exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
This lady happened to be carving birds since, I don't know, she was young.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
amazing the knowledge that she has.
Oh, yeah. And I love that about our carving club is that you have got people that have been doing this forever.
Ever.
And
Yes.
they are so willing to share and give you advice and in a good way and encourage you and
take you to the next level.
take you
right,
to the
of
next
what you're
level.
doing.
Yeah. And what I really enjoy is getting to know some of the older people that have been around the block and been there, done that, and their stories are fantastic. and I find them fascinating.
They are. Amazing
Salt of the earth.
stories.
Yeah,
Yes, yes.
yeah, good people, and I love that about the
I
club.
remember one of the guys there so he was carving and he was having a hard time with something. I don't remember what it was, but he was getting nervous about that he was not getting that right. And he said, I used to dismantle bombs in the war and I can get over this thing here. So you say, okay, the amount of story that they carry and the amount of knowledge, and they are there and they are eager to teach people.
Yeah.
So it's up to us to start attending these groups and having really the blessing of get a little bit of their knowledge into what we do.
And then to introduce, wood carving, wood burning, painting to the younger generation and bring them in, and let them, light their pilot light and get them fired up to do it. And I've done it with my grandkids.
I know, you told me.
My grandkids have got an open invitation to my studio all the time.
Nice. Do they take it?
They absolutely. So they're up there when they're visiting. We are up in the studio and we are painting or drawing or building or doing something. And it's amazing what they are able to do. Yes. And it's fun. I love that.
And
to
it's
see
amazing
it
how good it is for them, for their emotional health, for everything.
Absolutely, yeah. It creativity to open that up to them is giving them an outlet for their future. And I was introduced to doing artwork way back when I was really young, and I had a friend in the neighborhood whose mother was an artist. And so when I would go to his house, she would always, Ardell, would always set us down and put a pile of clay in front of us or bring out paper and pencils and have us draw something or sketch something. And I love that, and I still remember it,
You
today.
remember, and how many things you were able to process on the emotional level because you started that young.
Yeah.
I was fortunate too, because my father was an artist. Not everybody has an artist inside the home.
Yeah.
So it's up to the neighbor, to the friend,
Exactly.
whoever, to start them on that journey, because it is a way to let emotions go when you're feeling frustrated. It's a way to let anger, to know how to deal with values, the emotional values as well.
Yeah.
And so, don't stop doing that.
There's amazing art that's being produced by people that have got issues that they're dealing with, and they are able to express those issues with their art.
Yes.
And of course, if they're doing music or artwork or whatever, and they are able to tap into that and get it to reflect in their piece,
Exactly.
That's a home run.
It's a home run, exactly.
That is really where we all want to be.
That's why I tell all my friends all the time, not only you need to be creating because that's healthy for you, but you need to show other people, even just like Jim did. He probably was bored, maybe there was no fish that day, or he didn't hit the hole in one, whatever, and he was there, like nothing, without thinking twice about what he was doing. He was inspiring another artist to go full-blown on that specific art. How important is that to you?
It is so important.
I mean, today, every time you put in a show or you win or you just make and say, I like it, you owe a little bit to that moment to him.
Absolutely.
And maybe he's not even aware of that, so you have to tell him, to a point you have changed my life.
Yeah.
Just look at my skills today. Isn't that amazing?
That's amazing.
I'm very grateful for the people around me because they inspire all the time, and I think it's up to you to do the same. Just 2 more questions before we finish. Finn, what's next for you? What are you working on right now?
Currently, I'm working on the Canadian goose.
This one?
Yeah, and I want to get that thing finished as soon as I possibly
I
can.
heard that you were going to do this tonight,
I am a little
right?
tired of working on it, and it's just as I'm working on it, I'm thinking, I did this too big. I made this too big.
It's a big piece, yeah.
And but that's what I'm currently working on, and then I have another piece. I'm starting to do some abstract stuff with wood.
Like carving or burning?
carving.
Carving.
And it's really, really fun to do. And I love doing abstract painting and
I know
sculpting.
of a German artist, if I'm not wrong, that does abstract with carving.
Oh yeah,
I'm going to get his name.
There's a lot out there, and once you find an interest in it, it's amazing how much there is. And I'm a big Pinterest fan, and so I'm pinning all the time.
Yes, me too.
And I think I
have 88 boards. Just saying.
And I don't know how many thousands of pins I've pinned, but it's a lot. And a lot of birds, a lot of ducks, a lot of carving, a lot of wildlife, all the things I'm interested in. And it's amazing. But I love that about Pinterest because it's so inspiring, and you can see what someone else has done and where they've taken their art, and gives you the thought about doing it yourself, and maybe possibly in a different direction. But I love that about abstract stuff is getting a piece of wood and just kind of filling your way through it, and cutting and carving and grinding and sanding, and it's a blast. I love doing that.
It is really fun. Mary is saying, you are an animal lover, I can tell. Which animal inspires you the most?
Wow. I don't know.
I would say your duck fascination.
Yeah, that's kind of weird. And I got into ducks because of a good friend of mine. Is a big duck hunter, and there was great opportunities with the federal duck stamp.
Okay.
And that it's a contest every year. It's very, very competitive. The artists are amazing. And you have to be serious about doing it. So you have to know the duck that you're painting and understand, how it lives its life and where it lives its life, and how it flies and how it lands. And so there's a lot of education that goes with it. And I love that. I love learning about,
me too.
With photography, it's the same thing. I go out, and if I photograph a species that a bird that I'm not familiar with, I'll get home and I'll look it up. And
I have 3 small books right at my door.
Oh yeah.
And I have the ones from Utah only, the Western, and the ones in Yellowstone, because these are the places I most. And it's right there.
I'm the same way. You see it, you open it up, you identify it.
Yeah, and then I check. If I take a picture, I check.
I love that. And with my grandson, my oldest grandson, we created this is kind of wild, but we created a feather book. And so we started collecting feathers that we would find all over the place.
Oh gosh.
Wherever we went. And I made him identify the feather, where it came from. So he would get it, he would glue it into the book, identify the bird, the species.
Did he like doing that?
He loved doing it, so we still do it.
I have a book for you to read.
Oh, yeah?
I'm finishing it. I'm almost at the end. It's called The Feather Thief. And it's actually a boy, like he was 18, and he robbed the Natural Museum in London, or a city close to London, of Darwin's and Wallace's feathers, bird feathers.
Oh.
And he robbed a lot to do fly fishing.
Oh.
He would tie flies. He'd never fly fish, but he tie flies. And you cannot recover those because they're gone.
Right.
It's extinct. It's fascinating, though.
Oh, wow.
It's fascinating.
Yeah, and I got into tying flies.
Oh, me too.
Yeah.
I bought the stand and everything.
I did that for a long time.
Oh,
and
really?
There's so much fun in tying a fly and then catching a fish.
For trout or for salmon?
For trout.
Okay, I learned a little bit about trout, but I want to go into salmon.
Oh yeah,
because
they're more beautiful flies.
I want to try.
Yeah,
see, it's never ending. You said you
it's
don't
never
want
ending. Yeah, it's ridiculous. I finally had to give it up, and I gave my son all my fly tying stuff
boy.
just
boy.
because
it takes time.
It takes time. Yeah.
Phenomenal. Guys, this is Randall Royter, an amazing, prolific artist. Thank you so much for coming here.
Thank you for having me.
See, you
It's been
didn't
fun.
die.
Yeah, I didn't
Like-
die.
Yep,
I'm amazed.
Still here on Earth. The interview went fine, and thank you guys so much. Nancy is saying, please offer my thanks to Randall for his time and sharing his talents. I have enjoyed a lot. Me
thank
too.
you.
Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for offering your opinions and comments and asking Randall questions. You really make this special. Don't forget, this is a podcast, never goes away. So wherever you're watching, you can send people to watch what you saw today. Maybe you will inspire somebody else to start a journey, either wood carving, wood burning, photography, who knows? It doesn't matter. Whatever they are creating is good for their soul and it's good for the universe. Also, in every single podcast platform, you can look for us, Creativity in Focus. We have an amazing interviews, and we come back almost every week here with another artist. So join us again. Thank you again so much. CreativityInFocus.com. I'm Shahar. Thank you, Randall.
Thank
See
you.
you next time.